A Christmas Hope. Sarah hummed along to a scratchy carol on the radio, carefully draping a string of cranberries across the mantelpiece. Outside, the wind howled like a banshee, pelting the small cabin with snow. It was a Christmas blizzard of biblical proportions, John had said, his brow furrowed as he banked the fire higher. But inside, with the scent of pine and cinnamon filling the air, Sarah clung to the hope of a perfect Christmas. This year, a baby would be nestled under the tree. "Careful there, love," John said, his voice unusually gentle as he watched her stretch to hang a paper star. "Don't want you overdoing it." She smiled, her hand instinctively going to her swollen belly. "Just making it festive. For us. For him." A sharp pain ripped through her lower back, stealing her breath. She gasped, clutching the edge of the table. "Sarah, what is it?" John rushed to her side, his face etched with concern. I think it's starting," she managed, her voice trembling. The wind rattled the windows, a furious counterpoint to the fear that blossomed in her chest. John's face paled. He grabbed more wood, tossing it onto the already roaring fire. Embers spat and danced, casting frantic shadows on the walls. Okay, he stammered, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We'll be fine. I'll get the water boiling. And blankets. Lots of blankets." His voice was a high, reedy sound, a far cry from the confident, steady tone she usually relied on. Another pain, sharper this time, forced a groan from her lips. Christmas Hope felt fragile, a flickering candle in the face of the storm. Sorrow's embrace. The pain ripped through Sarah, a searing agony that stole her breath. Hours bled into an eternity of pushing, sweating, and gasping. John knelt beside her, his face a mask of strained concern, but his eyes held a flicker of something else, fear, perhaps, or a helplessness that mirrored her own. Finally, with one last, earth-shattering surge, the baby was out. Silence. The midwife, a wizened woman from the nearby settlement, took the child, her movements slow, deliberate. Sarah strained to see, her body trembling. Why wasn't she crying? A knot of dread tightened in her chest. "John," she croaked, her voice raw. He reached for her hand, his grip tight, but his gaze was fixed on the midwife. The woman turned, her face etched with sorrow. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. She's gone." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Gone? No. It couldn't be. She tried to sit up, but her body refused to obey. John pulled her back, his arms now a cage. "It's for the best," he mumbled, his voice thick with unshed tears. "Another mouth to feed, in this godforsaken place." His words, meant to comfort, were a jagged shard in her heart. She stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. He looked away, shame coloring his cheeks. The cabin was filled with the oppressive weight of grief. The fire crackled, a mocking counterpoint to the silence of their dead child. Sarah closed her eyes, willing herself to disappear. Sorrow embraced her, a cold, suffocating shroud. Icy accusations. Amber liquid swirled in the half-empty whiskey bottle as John poured another unsteady measure. His gaze, blurry and blood-rimmed, landed on Sarah across the cramped cabin. Since the funeral, a desolate affair underscored by a wailing wind, he'd been silent. Now the dam broke. "This is on you," he spat, the words slurred and venomous. Sarah recoiled as though struck. "John, please," her voice was a dry rasp from weeping. "Please what? Ignore the facts? You lack the strength, Sarah. You couldn't even bear our child." He slammed the bottle on the table, the small space amplified the sharp report. "You destroyed him." Tears coursed down Sarah's face, burning tracks on skin chilled to the bone. "That's a lie. You know it." She pushed to her feet, legs trembling. "The physician explained." "The physician offered platitudes? About your fragile constitution? About needing rest? You should have been resilient. This wouldn't have happened if you possessed more fortitude." He lurched toward her, his breath a foul mix of liquor and raw grief. Sarah faltered, her back meeting the rough planks of the wall. "John, no. Please stop this." Her plea fractured. "We're both suffering. We should be supporting each other." A mirthless, shattered sound escaped him, a mockery of laughter. "Support each other? Everything is gone, Sarah. You carried it away with you." Turning, he reached for the bottle again. In the hearth, the fire popped and hissed, projecting grotesque, animated shadows that exaggerated the frightening figure John had become. Driven into the storm, the whiskey sloshed as John slammed the bottle down. "It's your fault," he roared, spittle flying. "If you hadn't been so weak." Sarah recoiled, the words like shards of ice piercing her already wounded heart. "John, please." His eyes, bloodshot and wild, held no trace of the man she loved. "Don't John me. You killed our baby." She scrambled back, fear a cold hand gripping her throat. "I didn't. Couldn't." He lunged, grabbing her arm with a force that made her cry out, "Liar! You're useless! Nothing but a curse!" He dragged her toward the door, the wind howling outside like a banshee. "John, no. It's freezing," she pleaded, digging her heels into the rough-hewn floor. But his grip was relentless. The door ripped open, a blinding white fury engulfing the cabin. He shoved her out, the force of it sending her sprawling into the snowdrift. The door slammed shut, the sound echoing like a death knell. Sarah lay there, the wind stealing her breath, the snow stinging her face. The cabin, her sanctuary, her prison, was now a distant, mocking silhouette. Abandoned. The blizzard, a swirling vortex of white, threatened to swallow her whole. She was alone. Utterly, terrifyingly alone. Footprints in the snow. The wind clawed at Sarah, each gust a frigid hand trying to rip the threadbare blanket from her shoulders. Snow swirled, blinding and relentless. She hadn't eaten in what felt like days, and her legs screamed with every step, each a monumental effort in the knee-deep drifts. A sob caught in her throat, a raw, animalistic sound. John's face, twisted in anger, flashed before her eyes, superimposed on the swirling white. Then the empty cradle. Always the empty cradle. She stumbled, falling to her knees. The cold seeped through her thin trousers, a numbing prelude to the inevitable. She closed her eyes, welcoming the oblivion, the quiet surrender. But then a glint of something other than snow caught her attention. Straining, she pushed herself up, squinting through the blizzard. There, etched against the unbroken white, were footprints. Smaller than a white man's, more deliberate. Navajo. Hope, a fragile butterfly, fluttered in her chest. With renewed determination, she followed them. Each print was a promise, a whisper of warmth and shelter. The tracks led westward toward the distant mesas she could barely discern through the storm. They were faint, already beginning to fill with snow, but she wouldn't lose them. Not now. Not when they were the only thing keeping her alive. A Hogan's warmth. The wind held a mournful song, whipping snow against Chayton's face as he returned from tending his sheep. He almost missed her. Adrift, a shadow against the white expanse. He moved closer, his heart quickening with a primal fear. It was Sarah. She lay curled on her side, shivering violently, her exposed skin tinged blue. Her eyes were closed, her breath shallow and ragged. Without hesitation, Chayton knelt, gently lifting her into his arms. She was light as a feather, fragile. He prayed his Hogan was close enough. The warmth inside was immediate, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. He laid her on a thick woven rug near the fire. Her dress was damp, clinging to her. He worked quickly, covering her with a warm blanket, then another. He fetched water, coaxing small sips between her chapped lips. Her eyelids fluttered open. Confusion clouded her gaze. "John," she whispered, the name a broken thing. Chayton shook his head gently. "You are safe, Sarah. Warm now." He examined her hands, raw and cracked. He'd seen hands like these before, hands that had known hardship. He retrieved a small clay jar filled with a soothing balm made from herbs his grandmother had taught him to use. He carefully massaged the balm into her skin, his touch gentle, deliberate. He then offered her a bowl of warm stew. The smell, rich with mutton and herbs, seemed to stir something within her. She took a small spoonful, then another, her eyes slowly regaining a spark of life. The Hogan's warmth seeped into her bones, a promise of sanctuary in a world that had turned unforgiving. Healing traditions. The Hogan defined Sarah's existence. Time dissolved, marked only by the sun's shifting position through the smoke hole and the evolving sense of Chayton's healing infusions. Juniper and sage steeped into fragrant brews, their pungent steam banishing the frigid specters of the storm and her lingering anguish. Though her abused body slowly recovered, a deep sorrow proved a tenacious companion. Chayton rarely referenced her ordeal, choosing instead to share narratives, vibrant accounts of Spider-Woman's cosmic creation, poignant recollections of the long walk mirroring her own displacement and his people's enduring strength. He presented her with time-worn pottery fragments unearthed from the canyons, each a tangible link to ancestral voices. One night, beside the dwindling fire, Sarah finally inquired, "How do you maintain such serenity despite your people's history?" Chayton met her gaze, firelight dancing within his pupils. "The earth holds memory," he murmured. "The breezes whisper tales. We train ourselves to hear, to mend instead of erase." He then presented her with a meticulously crafted flute of wood. "My grandfather's gift." He believed music could repair what speech could not. The flute, chilled and polished, rested in Sarah's shaking hands. Unskilled in its use, she nonetheless clutched it, sensing a slender strand of hope being spun into her fractured spirit. Outside, the desert wind keened a lament, yet within the Hogan a different stillness took hold, a hushed promise of future solace. Remorse and regret. The whiskey had burned away, leaving behind only ash and the bitter taste of regret. John stared at his hands, the same hands that had gripped Sarah's arms, the same hands that had thrust her out into the storm. How could he have? The question clawed at his throat, a silent scream of self-loathing. He stumbled to his feet, the cabin suddenly feeling like a coffin. Panic seized him. Sarah! Where was she? He threw on his coat, the cold air a brutal slap to the face, mirroring the brutality of his actions. The snow had intensified, a blinding white curtain obscuring everything. He called her name, his voice swallowed by the wind. Each unanswered shout was a hammer blow to his soul. Hours blurred into a frantic search. He followed her tracks, barely visible now, leading him further and further from the cabin towards the distant glow of a fire. Dread coiled in his stomach. He knew where she was. He found her at Chayton's Hogan. The warmth radiating from within was a stark contrast to the icy wasteland he had just traversed. He hesitated at the doorway, the scent of cedar and something else, something earthy and calming, filling his nostrils. Inside, Sarah sat by the fire, wrapped in a thick blanket, her face pale but composed. Chayton sat across from her, his dark eyes filled with an unreadable empathy. John fell to his knees. Sarah, he choked out, his voice thick with tears. I'm so sorry. Please, come home. A new dawn. The Hogan's entrance framed John as he stood in the doorway, dawn painting the sky behind him. Lines of guilt, disturbingly unfamiliar, tightened his face. Sarah, I beg you. Come back. Her gaze met his, a glacial stillness solidifying within her. Back? You dare call that existence a home, John? A place of accusation, of blaming me. A fresh wave of anguish threatened to submerge her. I was wrong, he confessed, inching forward. Adrift, Sarah? Please, just forgive me. A mirthless sound escaped her lips. Adrift? I was lost in the blizzard, John. Bereft without our child. And you abandoned me. Her voice faltered. I'm staying here. She indicated the Hogan's inviting interior where cedar and pinyon wove their fragrant spell. Chayton moved to her side, his hand a comforting weight on her shoulder. His presence was a silent promise of protection. John visibly recoiled, his frame deflating. With him, he breathed, the question thick with resentment. Sarah offered no reply. She owed him nothing. Turning her back, she approached the loom where the nascent rug awaited her attention. The complex design, a gift from Chayton's grandmother, demanded every fiber of her being. Each carefully placed strand pulled her further from yesterday's pain, inching her toward a future still shrouded in uncertainty. Outside, the wind keened, a plaintive lament mirroring the land's desolate beauty. Winter's frozen hands still held the world captive, yet within the Hogan's walls a different transformation had begun. A gentle, hesitant renewal.